Welcome to another episode of Pels in the Blender. It's your boy A. Davis. I got the legendary Ivory Clark, the NOLA legend himself, in the building, man. I see how you feeling today.
Man, I'm great, man. I'm so happy to be here, bro. For real.
Man, I really appreciate you tapping in, dog. Appreciate you joining the show, blessing us with your presence, your knowledge. As if people follow you on social media, I know one of the things you do is you always talk about hoops from every level. It's not just from a coaching standpoint, from like coaching, player development, uh like just every aspect of the game really that
Yeah.
you could think about. You speak at from like the college players, you know what I mean? Like every
hmm
level. And each game is a little bit different, but you do a good job of verbalizing information to where people can understand it and you
Yeah.
don't mind clarifying takes and stuff like that too. So I always appreciate that. Whoa, appreciate y'all tapping in, dog. Appreciate y'all. Whoa, what's good? What's good? So with that being said, can you give the people that may not know a little
Yeah.
bit of your background into the hoop? They seen you on like Boo Crew over the summer. You was doing a lot of the draft reviews and stuff like that. Can
Yeah.
you just give a little bit of your background into how you got into hoops and like where the extensive knowledge comes from?
Nah, for sure, man. First of all, man, I'm an alumni of the Edna Core. Um,
The
yeah. So I learned a lot, man, from playing under Rock and Rob and Taurus Howard. That was the first planting of the seeds that started my basketball acumen, man. Then I went on and played at Dillard my freshman year for a coach named Marco Bourne, who is now on Jerome Tang's staff at Kansas State. After
wow.
that, I transferred and I went to Midland College and played for a guy by the name of Grant McCaslin, who's now the head coach at Texas Tech.
Man.
After that, then I went to Washington State and played for two absolute gurus of the game in Dick and Tony Bennett. So man, I was so fortunate, man, to play on every level from NAIA to powerhouse JUCO to the Pac-10. And then after that, I started my professional journey, man, playing overseas, various countries in Europe and South America, man, and just was fortunate, man, to be in some good situations where I was able to really learn the game from the best minds, man, in basketball.
Man, that's an amazing journey to be honest, because starting from a very young age and even the coaches that you mentioned have developed and grown over time, and you've seen their development. How you said one
Sure.
started at Midland and then went on to become a head coach at a bigger school and then overseas. And I imagine when you're going through all those different steps of basketball, if you notice, it's elevation at every step, high school to JUCO. Well, technically Dillard is D1, isn't it? Dillard D1, right?
NAIA.
And yeah, so that level to JUCO, D1, overseas, constant elevation, and then being able to play in a professional setting. Obviously, you see high level players firsthand. You know what I mean? Just
No, for
a
sure.
lot of ways to have firsthand experience of what it's like to play and have to what it takes to reach these levels that we're talking about. So when we're asking these questions, it's not like it's something that you just making up. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
it's
Yep.
stuff that's been formed and cultivated over experience from, and like just being respectful people that's probably smarter than you, which is the way that I think everybody learning from people that were smarter than them when they take it upon throughout their journey.
For sure.
So with that being said, we got the background out of the way. Everybody understands where the knowledge comes from. What we want to discuss today is the Pelicans roster, right? We're gonna kind of jump into this Pelicans roster because at at this point in time, I personally feel like that there's a couple storylines going on.
Okay.
One, there's the two timeline story, right?
hmm
And we could kind of jump into that first. A lot of people don't like the idea of the two timelines and feel like absolutely my dog, man. Look at DJ, the Edna Car. You heard me?
Sure.
Agent of Dylan number 33. You heard me? Appreciate y'all for tapping in, dog. And then so the two timelines. Well, what's good, Trey? Appreciate you for tapping in, my brother. The two timelines conversation where some people felt like to start the season, you should have just ripped the band-aid off and moved on from Zion, specifically Zion. I don't know if you include some of the other players in that and just went ahead with the younger players. Let's start there. How do you feel about the approach to where either, well, they did not decide to rip the band-aid off and move on from Z? How do you feel about that first?
Well, I I'm not a proponent either way of ripping a band-aid off or keeping a band-aid on per se, but I
Mm-hmm.
am big on choosing a lane. And
Mm-hmm.
if if the agenda was to win now, I think the Pelicans would have been best serviced by building around Z, like fully leaning into it, getting a bunch of guys that can shoot and handle the ball, a bunch of perimeter uh, guys that cause a lot of gravity on the perimeter, to kind of complement Zion, or go the opposite way and tear the band-aid off, as you would say, and trade Zion and get a king's ransom back and just go with the youth foundation. They didn't either. They tried to get two rookies. They didn't try, but they did get two rookies. Kept Z. So now you are battling like, are we trying to win now? Or are we trying to build for the future? It's unclear what the actual agenda is, and so it causes for a lack of cohesiveness in a roster,
Mm.
and I think that's a big problem that the Pels face right now.
Let me ask this question because that's I absolutely agree that that's a serious issue. Do you think that when Joe Dumars was trying to decide like what players to go get in the draft, so they decided we're gonna take these rookies, right? Do you think they identified Jeremiah Fizz and Derek Queen as players that could help Zion now and also be a part of the future, or it was more so like, you know what I mean? Like they could have went a route where they made some moves and brought in maybe some veteran players that were more ready. But do you think they had a thought of like these players can help now?
Yeah, I doubt that because history and statistics show that rookies have a very low impact on winning.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that, I don't believe that the agenda was to add them to be winning players right now. I believe it
Mm-hmm.
was a part of their growth and development, which obviously, if you're going to concentrate and focus on growth and development, then you ultimately, subsequently, sacrifice winning in the short term,
Mm-hmm.
right? For them to grow and develop and go through their mistakes. So I believe that they obviously went with the rookies for as a part of their development and growth and maturation.
So regarding the growth and development, and I know that's kind of like jumping a little bit, but it kind of fits the two timelines conversation. A lot of discussion right now is on like how much time the rookies are playing. So like you saw Jeremiah Jordan Poole be removed from the starting lineup
Mm-hmm.
relatively quickly for Jeremiah Fizz. Now, granted, Jeremiah Fizz did have summer league and training camp. Like he didn't miss any time.
Mm-hmm.
So if the goal and agenda was to develop, they did move him into the start lineup relatively quickly. And Derek Queen is kind of just coming along as far as like the amount of minutes played. Do you feel like that they're them putting them into the rotation is part of the growth and development aspect, or is it like necessity because I guess Z is out and stuff like that? Or what do you make of like how they're going about the process with them?
I think it's a bit of both. All right. I think it's a necessity. Obviously, Dejounte being out, Jordan Poole being more serviceable as a more of a shooting guard role as a point guard.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of with Fierce case, there's a void there that need to be filled. And he's been playing phenomenal. But I think he was best suited for the job, and he was the only person really available for the job. So it fit both. Same thing with Derek Queen. I mean, Kevon Looney was out to start the season. Z had a couple hamstring injuries. He was thrusted in a position where he had more opportunity than he probably would have originally had those things not occurred. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it was a situation where, yeah, they're rookies and they have to grow and develop, but also, I mean, they're the most talented players at the position of need that where there were injuries sustained.
So let's look a little deeper into the Jordan Poole, Jeremiah Fizz rotation, because I'm of the belief at least that Jordan Poole provides more spacing than Jeremiah Fizz right now.
For sure.
And I think Jeremiah Fizz was, as far as like overall team, right? As the overall team, I thought he brought more value to the team off the bench, because the second unit, like, he was allowed to run the second unit a little bit more, be more aggressive offensively,
Hmm.
uh didn't really step on the toes to a degree. Like, I don't fully know if he maximizes the starting unit as it was constructed as opposed
Hmm.
to Jordan Poole. Where do you land on that? Because I do understand that Jordan Poole not being a traditional point guard, you know what I mean? I understand the
Hmm.
need for that. That was similar to why they brought in DeJounte.
Hmm.
But do you think it's better to have Fizz running the spot, or Jordan Poole, who's, more of a two guard, but can provide more spacing necessarily, and honestly is a better scorer kind of right now than Jeremiah Fizz?
Yeah, I think the Pels in a conundrum where whoever is chosen there, uh, it's an imperfect solution, right? Having a
Mm-hmm.
rookie run a point guard position um, with only 1 year of college experience, clearly he's going to go through his growing pains, right? And the offense isn't going to hum like it needs to with the rookie guard that is still learning the NBA game.
Yeah.
Conversely, with Jordan Poole, who's more suited, in my opinion, in a more off-ball role. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Either way, you have a situation where you don't have an optimized solution at that position, and so you're
Mm.
improvising, and so therefore, you're not going to get the results that you would like or desire, especially with the starting unit, because of that imperfect solution that you have to deal with.
I agree with that. The comment: neither JP nor Fizz should be running thing as opposed to be Zion. I agree that they should be playing through Zion, but how do you feel about that comment necessarily, as far as like it's supposed to be Z?
So, with the whole point Zion theory, right?
Mm,
That is something that I believe should have been explored. But if you're gonna do that, then you're probably not gonna draft a Jeremiah Fears. You're probably not gonna
mm,
draft a Derek Queen. You're probably gonna target someone like a Khan.
yeah.
Like your whole team building and roster construction would be different if you were leaning into the Zion thing. Also, that's the high risk and high reward outcome too if Zion was at point guard, because we know the extra strain on his body going downhill every play, making plays. I would believe it increases his propensity to get injured. So if
Mm.
Zion is out and now you've constructed the team around him to supplement what he does, getting downhill and drawing defenders in, and he's no longer there, now you automatically looking at another lost season possibly.
I agree. Z's injuries have absolutely hindered. I think hindered Griffin, and to a degree, I don't want to say hindered Joe Dumars, but I don't. I think any person that's constructing the team has to have like some kind of reservation. Like, you have to build a team, I guess, to sustain without the idea of Zion. And like, if he's there, this is how we can further utilize him, which I think leans to the drafting of a Jeremiah Fizz and Derek Queen, because I think they're two players that can, and not at this point because they're rookies, but they'll be able to run a team and sustain offense without the idea of Zion
Hmm.
being there. Since Zion has been out, they've played. Well, I don't want to say since Zion's been out. Let's kind of. Well, you know what? Before we do that, let's stick to this conversation for a second. Do you think and I don't know how you feel about like Coach Green or whatever, but do you think based on how they're playing currently with Poole being out and Z being out, that this is the best way to maximize or play style for the roster? What would be your critique of how to further, I guess, get like squeeze more juice out of this fruit, I guess, for a best way to say it?
Man, that's
That's a tough one. I know.
it is a tough one, man. That's why they get paid the big bucks, man. Because I believe whoever the coach is, and in this situation, Willie Green, I think he has to be more creative in getting the most out of this offense. Something I've been looking for them to do is more inverted pick and rolls, either with Queen or with Zion or with Fears, setting the screen, right, and getting some mismatches. Um, I think the creativity on the offensive side is something to be desired, and I would like to see them really explore different avenues and trying to get this team to be better offensively. I think the last time I saw the Pels were like at the very bottom, the bottom third in offense points per game.
Hmm.
And that's you can't win in this league if you're going to be in the bottom third on offense.
Absolutely. My one of my biggest critiques of Willie right now, at least, is I understand, like, I to a degree understood starting Jeremiah Fields and bringing Jordan Poole off the bench, even though I don't agree with it at all. I kind of understood it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, as far as like Derek Queen, like, and we'll get like when we get a little further into it, like your opinions on Derek Queen and stuff like that. I know you have some very interesting thoughts, at least on Derek Queen.
Hmm.
But based off how he's been playing lately and the because you've had Kavon out, you've had Missy miss some time, you haven't really seemed to lean into Carlo too much. We saw in game 2, I think it was, Derek Queen played 35 minutes in that particular game. So I'm not sure if initially they were concerned about, he missed all of that time. I didn't know if they were concerned about like the health aspect of it. But if you play him 35 minutes in game 2, that's obviously not too much of a concern. I think part of the things that's hindered what he has now and caused some of the losses is the rotations, right? Like, I don't think he's maximizing, or like, it's just the lineup choices that we see, the combinations that we see.
Hmm.
Like, do you think we need to shorten the rotation a little bit based on what we have, or like how do you feel about the rotations and stuff? Because that's my biggest critique right now of Willie and what he's doing.
On one hand, I empathize with Willie because again he has had Z out. He has had Kevon Looney out. Of course, we knew coming into it wouldn't have Dejounte. So he's basically
Appreciate you.
improvising and uh, on the fly trying to find the best lineups that fit this team. But I don't know how much Willie uses or integrates analytics into his decision making for substitutions. Obviously, they've
Mm-hmm.
been showing that certain lineups are have a big plus that he doesn't seem to utilize very often or very long. So I would really be interested to see or know how much he lean into the data for helping drive decision making.
Man, you have a very respectful way of saying it. You have a very respectful way of verbalizing that, of like explaining that. Because I know exactly what you meant, but I'm like, oh, you went the intellectual, the very respectful
Hey man, I'm a
intellectual way
coach
of
myself, man, and
yeah.
I understand. It's not always easy to um make those decisions in real time, man. And some things that be glaring obvious to some fans and some people who see the game differently,
Mm-hmm.
is not so apparent to you. So I mean, I empathize with the brother, man, because that's a very difficult job. There's only under 30 other people have, and making those decisions in real time can be tough.
Yeah, my biggest. I feel like with Carlo, Missy, and Queen, we should be shortening Loon and Jordan so they can mentor the three bigs we have. I agree with that to a degree. I feel like I think part of so here's what I'm wondering based on like this comment specifically, right? I wonder if Willie has complete autonomy to make this like roster decisions, rotations, and stuff like that because and I'm not 100% sure on this, but part of the reason when Willie was hired back with Griff, he wasn't really able to choose his own staff. They said Griffin wanted to be really hands-on with how the team was played and rotations and stuff like that. So you see, even now it feels like there's a lot of scheduled rotations, right? This person is coming in at this time, this person has to leave at that time, and I imagine to a degree is data driven, probably injury related. I would imagine because the team has suffered so many injuries that they're probably more like, listen, at this point, this player is at a high risk for injury, so we're gonna use the rotations this way, and that's probably where the scheduled rotations come from. I actually just like as I'm thinking about that, that's kind of where that's coming from, as opposed to my biggest critique of Willie has been his feel for the game, and like it feels like you're not watching the game that's happening in front of you with the rotations. So as regarding this comment though, I feel like with Carlo, Missy, and Queen, we should be shortening. I'm assuming you're talking about the rotation, and Lone and Jordan should be more there for mentoring. It felt like Willie's ideal center was like a Missy, a Carlo, not Queen necessarily, but you can see where he helps his offense out. Do you think that it's more that Willie isn't, I don't want to say allowed, but does he have the autonomy to make decisions that he may want to make, and is not really given the opportunity to do that? That's why you see some of the scheduled subs regardless. It's one of those things where it just is what it is. I'm not even thinking about it, and we just move in that way.
I would hope that's the case, bro, because again, for me, coaching is about feel and
Mm-hmm.
being in tune with your players and being in tune with the game. Every game is different, so substitution patterns again would be dictated as how the flow of the game going. Are they in foul trouble? Are they tired? Or are they in a good rhythm of getting people involved? Are they doing what they're supposed to do? I would hate to have to coach and be like, all right, it's the 4 minute mark. This is this time where they're coming out and they're in a groove. And so I don't know how the Pelicans run their things in the organization. If they tell them, hey, look, all right, this player didn't reach their quota for the quarter or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, it's time to pull them out. I would imagine that would be very difficult thing to work around, especially when the player is being ultimately productive. So
Yes.
I don't know.
And the more that I think about that, I wonder if that's the thing, because you see, like an example would be, you see Zion sometimes, like in the very beginning of the game, he isn't always in rhythm, but like he'll start getting going, and then like
Hmm.
clockwork, man, at like the 7 minute mark, the 6 minute mark, he's going to sit down, and then it's almost the same with every player. It's like as soon as they start getting into, getting that second wind
In a
going,
groove,
getting
yep.
into a sweat, getting a good lather going, hey, come sit down. And not only do they sit down for extended minutes. So
Hmm.
like you've been a player and also you're currently a coach. How are they able to possibly overcome like the frustration of that, like mentally? How do you overcome the frustration of that?
Man, I don't think you can. I think you just have something you have to manage and maintain. Especially if that's the
Mm,
mandate when you have either a doctor's order or your
mm.
statistician coming to you and telling you, it's time to, pull them. I would imagine that's very difficult. I I wonder if some coaches are given leeway to, supersede that advice to take them out and continue to play guys, or and maybe in Willie Casey, has to follow what his orders are being told.
I agree. So that's an interesting concept. I wonder if there's a way I could add some questions and
Yeah.
try kind of figure that out, because I'm gonna be honest, man. I and this is not you on the hook for this, but I personally think that we need to move in a different direction for coaching to get some versatility. But I'll be honest, if that is like something of somewhat of a mandate from like a minutes perspective and a rotation perspective, then that's something that any coach would struggle with. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And that's if that's something that's not necessarily being put out there, then really they're doing all of the fire Willie. And again, I absolutely want him fired, but that's doing him a disservice with if those are the kind of limitations that he has to work with. You know what I mean? It just doesn't
I don't,
do
I
him
don't know if
well. Go
you've
ahead.
been watching Memphis lately, but
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Asalo, who's their coach,
Yeah,
he's
Ben.
been kind of in the media lately about his substitution patterns. He has a similar
Yeah,
philosophy about playing as hard as you possibly can play for 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, however long it is, and subbing guys, even like subbing 3, 4, 5 guys at a time, AAU style. And that's been I actually saw that recently. How he has this wild substitution pattern, and it's based on productivity. And actually, him and John Morant are rumored to be
clashing
at
about
odds
it.
because
Yeah,
of the substitution. So again, I think every coach, every organization may have different leeway that they give the coach to certain extents, whether they should be super
well,
strict in following the substitution patterns or go by more of a feel.
I agree. I think with basketball in almost any sport, but specifically
Yeah.
basketball, it's gotta be by feel because like you said earlier, every game is its own game. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's and even with like strategically what you're doing, strategic like from what offenses you're running, what plays you're calling, what
Yeah.
defenses you're calling. Like you every it's not like one of those one size fits all kind of things. You kind of have to be able to mold and that's what makes the best coaches in my opinion. The coaches that are able to adjust
Just yeah.
uh to what you're seeing. And I think like to kind of get into some of Willie's shortcomings, we all talk about like the third quarter. I think game just in the third quarter, I think it takes too long for the team to adjust to whatever adjustment the team has made in the third quarter. And then before you know it, you see a 5-0 run, 7-0 run, 8-0, 10-0 run. And
Yeah.
sometimes we see those third quarter runs get to, I mean, we've seen them as big as 20 to nothing, 20 to nothing runs, and there's nothing done about it. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Again, I would, I'm not gonna go as far as saying, I would like to see someone else do that, but I do believe that
Right.
um, that could be an area that needs to be addressed.
I agree. Let's see. Are Zion Poole, Missy and Poole really injured as it seems, or are they possibly revolting against Willie? I feel like Willie really has playing the group split down the middle. So I'm you can address this one if you want to. I'm gonna address it first. I personally think the players are in a split and a little bit of a revolt because my my thinking is that when they switched over to Joe Dumars, and I'll get your opinion on this. They switched over to
Mhm.
Joe Dumars. I think they just wanted a clean start, like to decide to like, hey, Z's the face. I think Zion wanted a clean start. I think Traden wanted a clean start to be able to just come in and really see what it is that the team could look like going to different directions. Because I think they already know their ceiling to a degree with Willie Green.
Mhm.
So I personally believe that Willie, regardless of if it is something that's mandated or not, I think the limitations that Willie Green has is affecting the team to a degree. So I personally think the players are in a revolt and it was shut down. I think it was shut down at that 6 game mark. Go ahead.
I wouldn't I wouldn't say a revolt, but I would say um, when you really love and believe in your organization and your coach, um, you tend to do your very best to get back out there as soon as possible. And it seems like in a situation with these Pelican players that they're going to take their time and do their rehab and make sure that they're right and not rush the issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I do believe when the buy-in is all the way there and you believe in your coach, I believe it hurts them to be on the side, not to be helping contribute, being out there with their teammates. and you just find a way to get out there a little bit sooner when you know really believe in the head guy.
I agree. This is something regarding what we mentioned about with the Memphis coach, my college team, Virginia Cavaliers. Ryan Odom does the same thing, 3 4 minute subs, but they full court press the whole game.
Hmm.
I think the college game, which is a different style of game, I think you can get away with that a little bit more than in the league, to be honest, with playing millionaires, you know what I mean? 3 4 minutes and then subbing them out. What's your thought?
Well, it's actually trending that way in the league now. If you look at the
Okay.
Portland Trail Blazers, even the Toronto Raptors, their press rate is much higher than in years past. I mean, a lot of teams are pressing
Picking
and
up
picking up
full for
guys
sure.
full court, right? And so therefore, when you expending that type of energy, these substitution patterns are a little bit different. You might be more prone to pull a guy a little bit faster. So we're starting to see it in the league more. And I'm interested to see how long this trend will persist. If it's something that just seems to be a blip in the road, or is something that actually is a little bit more long term.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Let me ask you this before we move on. What would be your with the roster that they have currently, with the people
Hmm.
that's playing? Because in the last they had the 0-6. They started off 0-6.
Hmm.
And then they had two bad teams come in. I don't know how you feel about saying bad teams, but I'm gonna say Dallas is a bad team.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say the Hornets are a bad team.
Hmm.
Um, and they got 2 wins. And I think, and again, you get a win however you could get a win. Sometimes
Facts.
getting the win absolutely just makes you
Yeah.
feel better. Like, yeah, so getting a win is absolutely important. Losing to a bad team could be really demoralizing. They
Hmm.
did play a challenging schedule on the first half.
Hmm.
Those 6 games with some tough teams, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself with wins against. I mean, you could argue bottom of the league teams.
Yeah.
So in those games were nail biters at the end of the
Hmm.
day. How do you feel, or how did you judge the team from how they look in the 0-6? Because I feel like even with the 0-6, it was split into two kind of categories. You had the first 2 games against Memphis and San Antonio. It's close down to the wire. You look really competitive. You led a good bit of time in those games. And
Hmm.
then you get those stretches against Boston, Denver, OKC, where you're not competitive at all.
Hmm.
You know, how do
Hmm.
you, and then you get the 2 games against the bad teams. Where are you as far as like the team and how they look, where they stand? Um, yeah, like the level they're at.
Um, I've been on record prior to the season as saying that I thought that this would be the likely outcome this year.
You had them for the
Um,
30 wins, like somewhere around there, or
I
lower
don't
than
even
that.
think I had them for that much, but
Oh,
um, yeah, I just think it's a tough situation, man. Especially in the Western Conference, with a rookie point guard and your other lead ball handler who's not really a point guard. With Zion being in and out, um, I just don't think this team is really constructed to really contend. And you know, until they are, you know, we're gonna see them, keep continue to
look
ramp
how
up the
they look.
bottom.
Essentially
Yeah,
roller coaster, right?
yeah.
Essentially roller coaster. Let me ask this. Aside from the construction, right? Because we know the construction matters. How do you feel about the talent itself? Like, do you think, like, even if the team is put together poorly, do you think the talent is there? Because I was on record saying, if you play it right, right, if
Hmm.
you manage the roster right, um, and I still kind of believe that, like, if you play it there's zero room for error, right? Like,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
more Chaz mentions it all the time, like the margins for victory are very small.
Hmm.
Excuse me. So you have to play it kind of perfectly, but if you manage it properly, you can contend. I was like, man, we could get to 49, 50 wins. And how I thought about it was, if you look at the Memphis game, you should have won that game. I
Hmm.
don't know if, like, you can't just give up a 16-0 run in the third. the Spurs game, you up 8 in the fourth. You can't let them go on a, what was it, a 14-2 run or a
Yep.
14-0 run with no timeouts. You can't go under screens. You know what I mean? And that's things that bad teams do. Don't get me wrong. Like, bad teams find ways to lose. So I don't want to give them no slack. But you could have probably Z hit the game winner. You should be 2-0. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The Clippers game, you got an opportunity to win that game. And then if you look at it, that's possibly 3 wins plus the 2 against bad teams, as opposed to being 2-7. You could make a legit case that they could be 5-4.
Okay.
If 5-4 looks completely different than 2-7.
It
Um,
does, but would your outlook for the team be what if that were the case?
mhm.
What would your outlook for the team be if they were 5-4 right now?
My ceiling, regardless, was just getting into the playoffs. I think the West is tough, but I honestly don't think the West is as tough as a lot of people make it. I think the teams at the top will be the teams at the top: Denver, OKC, Denver, OKC, Houston. Like, and Houston is struggling without their point guard, even though they're just overly talented. I believe in the coach
Mm-hmm.
Ime, so they're gonna be cream of the crop. I think the Lakers with Luka. I just believe in Luka Doncic. If you got a top 3 player in the league and he's healthy, the way Austin Reeves looked, JJ's system seemed like it's starting to
Mm-hmm.
kind of kick in. Like, that looks like your top 4 teams. You got to account for the Clippers because Kawhi, James Harden, they like, I know they're struggling right now, but I believe in that team. Like, they have the
No,
talent. You don't believe in I don't
no.
believe in the Clippers come playoff time. And my only question about the Clippers was, are they too old for the regular season?
I was on record before the season, before obviously seeing them together. I thought they would be a top team, but with the whole scandal with the Kawhi getting paid, the allegation, and a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of bad
yeah.
juju on around that team. Bradley Beal doesn't seem to be interested in playing basketball, and
Mm,
it's they have some things going on in our organization that you know isn't good for winning.
you know what? I ain't even consider that, to be honest. I like kind of swept it off. This is a good question. What are the Pelicans ceiling for this year? Playing even a possibility right now? No. As of right now, absolutely not. Um, but the thought behind it was the West really wasn't that strong, in my opinion. Like, I felt like it were your top teams, and then everybody else is kind of in the same tier or bucket. And again, I was of the mindset that we wouldn't have Willie Green all season or a majority of the season. A better coach maximizes the roster. You give me Zion 65 games, and I still firmly believe that if Willie were not the coach, Zion would be on pace. We saw before, and again, this just is all my opinion. I'm like a conspiracy theorist, right? But if I got Zion first 2 games where essentially he was averaging like 27-9, 27-9-7 and leading the league in steals. If I get that over a full sample size, Trey Murphy started out god awful. It looks like he's finding his form.
Mm-hmm.
I think that team could contend, to be honest, because other than the top 5, like Memphis, I think we could beat Memphis. Did you see what they got going on? Sacramento, not really. I didn't think Chauncey was a good coach. I don't think Sacramento is a good team. I don't think Phoenix is a great team. Portland is a young team, but you should be able to compete with Portland. Like, realistically, if you do what you're supposed to, you could absolutely contend from that 5 to 8 or 9. The Spurs look better than what I thought they were, but you know, that's
Okay.
kind of where I had them. So I thought playing could be a thing, but seeing them now, I don't believe they win. Like, I just, until Willie is gone, I just don't believe they win a game.
Okay.
And when they do win a game, I'm surprised. I am, just being honest. I think we're better than the show. The whole time we played the Spurs, it's been close. Do you put a lot of stock into that most recent Spurs game?
I don't. I think you just match up well with certain teams, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think the Pelicans, when they play to their potential, the Spurs are a favorable matchup for them. That still doesn't mean that I think that they're among the Western Conference elites, but
Mm-hmm.
this particular matchup, just bodes well for them.
I agree. Before the season, with all the vibes were great before the season. They shouldn't have been lying to us about the vibes. That's you know what? That's a big thing to because everything was the vibes are amazing. The vibes are amazing, and then game one, it was all out the window. 119-0 run by Memphis in the third, and everything was down the drain. So I don't know. That to me, that just must mean the vibes weren't as great or great. And the Pels media team did a really good job with that. The only teams that are definitely better than us on paper are OKC. Here's a great question for you specifically, and then we'll transition into our rookies with this. The only teams that are definitely better than us on paper are OKC, Denver, Houston, Minnesota, maybe San Antonio. We should be on par or better than everybody else. How do you feel about that?
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Oh, that's
Again,
interesting. I didn't think you would go there.
I think it's fair because again, I don't believe this team is playing. I don't believe this team is being optimized. And
Mm-hmm.
if this team was being optimized, I do believe between I think seven. From I think legitimately from 7 to 12. Anywhere in that area.
If what's your way to optimize the roster? That's perfect. How would if this was your team, if this was your team from ground up, right? You can play whoever, you can bench whoever, you can shorten rotations, you can extend minutes. If however you chose to do it, what do you think would be the best way to optimize the roster from rotations, play style, defense? I know that's a lot to lay on you right now, but just if you had to start with that, like how would you optimize this? Let's start with the starting five. What would your starting five be based on how they're playing right now?
I think to me, bro, when you talking about crafting a championship roster, it's more like solving a Rubik's cube as opposed to a jigsaw puzzle.
Okay.
And what I mean
Ooh.
by that is sometimes, even though you may have all blue squares, you may have to undo some things to get further along in the process.
Mm.
And I think right now, for this Pelicans team to ultimately be a contender, that they have to undo some things, and they may have to take a strong look at possibly trading Z and or
Mm-hmm.
Trey. Um, I would hate for both of them to be moved, but in order to really get this team, I mean, not just Z. I mean, I think there's some other players like Jordan Hawkins. I think Jose. I don't. There's some guys that are on this team that just um, I hate to say don't contribute to winning at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to supplant those guys with that do that.
Mm. I agree. So the Rubik's Cube analogy is a good one because you have an idea how something is shaping out, and then you like you said you kind of gotta on the fly to a degree, go backwards to move forward. Your parents tell you that all the time as you're going through life. Boy, sometimes you got to take 2 steps back to take 3 steps forward.
Yeah.
That's a real thing, and it applies to pretty much everything. Um, which could mean to a degree if because the Pelicans are not a team that from the ownership level, it feels like winning or being your best self isn't always the goal, as respectfully as we can as you can say that. And the reason I mention that is because we talk about possibly having to move pieces, right? You can't always move pieces because they may not even try to get the
Mm-hmm.
pieces that would fit what it is that you're trying to do. So I would sometimes hate to move a piece to get a lesser piece when that may not necessarily be the goal. If I knew for sure that we would be able to bring, like if I said I need this player, right? Like I'm gonna move Z, but I need, hey, you pick the guy, we'll find out, we'll make sure to go get him. Then I would feel more comfortable about doing that. I'm just not sure that this organization has. Go ahead.
Here's my thing. Do you believe Z is a number one option on the championship team?
I do not.
Okay.
I think Z is I think he has too many limitations to be a number one option on a championship team, but I do think he can be the number one option on a playoff contending team. And some things, if let's put it this, if the roster was fully maximized, I think you could see him give you what Ant gives you in Minnesota, in my opinion. Like
They've been in Western Conference Finals back to
I
back
would
years.
I will take the Western Conference Finals. We ain't got to be no championship team. Like I
I
just want to
agree.
get into the playoffs. And the reason I say that is because Minnesota, the year that they went to the first year they went to the Western Conference Finals, like people talk about how Ant performed, and yes, Ant did perform well, but they did have Karl Anthony Towns on that team.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a 50, I think a 53 win team. They were fighting for the 1 seed throughout the season. They immediately get rid of Karl Anthony Towns and elite level talent, right? Say what you want. People don't like him, but you say what you want. The guy is a great player. And they were throughout the season, they were like borderline playing team most of the season. You know what I mean? I've seen Z, when healthy, look like and compete with Minnesota. So if I could just get him to the playoffs with a roster that, and I still don't think since Zion's been here, we've committed to him and put a roster around him that fully maximizes his talent. So to be honest, I can't even say that he won't be he can't be a number one on a championship team. I just know the way we've done it, he absolutely can't be. But because of his limitations, I don't think he can be the number one. I definitely he could be like a 1A or something like that. You know what I mean? Or like a strong 2.
I believe for I believe Z would have to firmly have to be your third best player to be a championship. Now, a really good team, he's your second best.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he's your number one, obviously, I don't think that's a very strong team. But
Mm-hmm.
for a contending team, I think Z has to be. You have to have like at least two players that are better than him.
What do you consider contending? Like what's your
Like Western
criteria for
Conference
contend?
Finals, like the Final Four.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you see Z amongst the top players in the West? Like not the Jokers, because Joker is different, right? But like, do you see Zion as like, you know, top 10 in the West?
Yeah, he's toward the bottom of that top 10, but still the magnitude and the drop off, I would say, between after like 4 to like 5 on down, it
Mm-hmm.
gets,
It's steep.
the gap gets steeper between those numbers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think Trey had a great game yesterday, right? And it seems like
Hmm.
Trey is finally finding this rhythm. He's the last couple of games, he's been getting a little bit better, a little bit better.
Hmm.
Still not great defensively, which I don't
Hmm.
think he's ever going to be like a great
Hmm.
defensive player, but
Hmm.
the effort has been improving. And I partially think that's when the mutiny ended. Like
Hmm.
that's how I'm categorizing the season. 0-6. They went on a road trip. They thought Willie would be fired. Ownership said no. And then you heard Trey Murphy do the interview saying, look, we got to take care of it and do this for ourselves. And I think you started seeing a better effort from everybody. Not to mention you played a couple bad teams. And yesterday was the first time against a good team, which again they do match up with relatively well. And Trey finally got the shooting to come along. Like he had his best shooting game of the season. Do you think, because a lot of people came into the season thinking Trey Murphy would take the All-Star leap,
Hmm.
right? Or at least fringe All-Star, something
Hmm.
like that. Do you think Trey, because we're talking about you got to at least be on the level of Z to match up or be able to contend? I personally don't think, and I'd have to see Trey look like yesterday consistently, not saying 40, but you know what I mean, consistently to say he's even at the level of Z. But it even seems like would you say Trey is the second best player on this team?
When he's playing like yesterday, I think it's a pretty easy yes.
Okay. Do you think the drop off from Z to Trey is significant?
I do. I do.
How significant? Like if Trey is your second best player, like if Trey being significantly less than Z, that's part of the reason why you're like, no, we can't contend. Like, is Trey close to being an all-star?
Right now, who would you rather have, Austin Reeves or Trey Murphy?
Man, I had this conversation at the end. I had this conversation at the end of the last episode. I asked Chaz about Austin Reeves because right now Austin Reeves just 40 consistently.
Bad boy.
40 consistently. By far your second best player. Let me ask you this before I answer that question. Do you think if Trey was in a better situation from a coaching standpoint offensively and how he was utilized, he would look better? Because that was the pushback that Chaz gave me. Like, and I don't necessarily know, but because again, I only can visualize them with what it is I've seen them do to a degree. So I can't say that you would look better if somebody tried to use you differently, because I mean I know what you are right now. Right now, I might have to go Reeves, dog.
Okay. Okay.
Go Reeves.
But to that point about Trey, that question, I think personnel, he hasn't really, in addition to the coaching or the lack thereof,
Definitely.
the roster around him doesn't optimize him.
I agree.
And I think when you have both things in conjunction, when you have the coaching, creativity, and you have players that can optimize his abilities and skill set, then that's when you get fireworks. But
Yeah.
the Pels don't have either.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really tough to judge. And that's part of why, in my opinion, and after this we can start moving towards the rookies and stuff like that, because that's a big conversation. Yeah. Like I feel that starting Jeremiah Fizz and honestly keeping Herb Jones in the starting lineup is limiting what Trey looks like, what Z looks like. Like I think it's hurting the offense so much to where it took, Trey however many games. And again, sometimes it just takes time to get in the rhythm. He was coming off injury, not playing, got to get your legs, got to get your win. I understand all of that. But
also it seemed like he just simplified his game.
Yes.
He didn't, it wasn't so much dribbling. He just really went back to the basics. And I think that's, best for him.
I think I mentioned that in a couple episodes too. It's like, bro, I understand you put in a lot of this work in the off season, working on your game. It seems like he was trying to do the stuff he was working on, and it was overwork. Like you had him on the first move. You know what I mean? Like that shot is open. Like the mentality went from he was trying to play make as opposed to we need you to shoot the ball. Like get back to shooting from 30 if you have to get yourself going, as opposed to doing all of the extra. And I think personally, when you work on your game and you improve in the off season, that doesn't mean that you go away from what it is you were working on. But when you get in situations that you were not comfortable with before, you'll have the tools to better handle those situations. That don't mean try to put yourself in those situations so you can show off what it was you were working on. Do that make sense?
Facts, agree.
Yeah. Here we go. This is a good one. Trey is back. He lost himself in YouTube and shit and all-star talk. He absolutely was a little too much dip on the chip for a while. And I think they all got humbled with the 0-6 and the 30-point losses. And it got to the point where all of them, in my opinion, were playing so bad that they all had to take a step back and say, hey, let me get myself together and get back to looking like me. Because if you don't look well, then we can't. If they're not doing their job, you almost can't blame the coach. Like if you playing that bad, I can't even say it's the coach because you look awful. Like I can't make shots for you. I can't defend for you. I can't rebound for you. And a lot of the things that they were doing a little bit better, but I think everybody was coming in a little too confident, as if other players in the league don't watch film, don't study, don't, you know what I mean? Don't do work. So it was good to see him just keep it simple. And I think inserting Trey took them braids out. They were too tight. He could think straight now. Probably so, dog. Probably so. Trey was listen, it's good. And you saw him slowly start to come along. And I hate to say it, but it was a little bit without Zion in the lineup. I do think Zion helps maximize Trey because of the gravity and stuff. But I think they've been countering that with Jeremiah Fizz. As opposed to having another, before it was CJ in that spot. So where CJ is a shooter and a scorer, and Poole was similar to that too. So I just think it's taking the balance. So let's imagine shooting them threes with the braids pulling. Hey, bro, listen, y'all gonna leave Trey Braids alone and let him rock his fro. So let's go ahead and transition into this. It's a big topic of discussion. I hate that it took me an hour to get into it, but the conversation just been kind of flowing, man. Real good dialogue. Boom. This one, I pick a no pick next year. They think we won the draft. So when the draft hit, was very excited because I thought you would get one player, and then I thought you were going to end up staying somewhere around, what were we, 23? I think we were 23 during the draft. And I thought they had some really good players at 23 you could have took. But I did doing the, and y'all, man, shout out to you. You was on, the Boo Crew film reviews for the college prospects and stuff. I liked Queen's game going into the draft and watching him in college. I like what I saw from Jeremiah Fizz as well. So when we drafted both, I did feel like we won the draft. I still feel like we won the draft. I didn't necessarily like it from where we were going with the team, but I absolutely like picking both of those players. Before, like in the draft process, how did you feel about both of those players?
I was excited for Jeremiah Fierce. He was someone that I was extremely high on. I thought the Pelicans addressed the area of need with the point guard spot. I thought in another year or two that he would be a player that really contributes to winning regular season games.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the Derek Queen pick, unfortunately, he will be and it's not his fault, but he will be forever tied to the compensation that was given up for him in exchange for his services. Which is, again, it's not no fault of his own. But for me, Derek Queen closest comps were between Alperen Sengun and a Boris Diaw. And I asked myself if Boris Diaw would he be worth, because the compensation that they gave up for him is like you're one of your top 3 best players on a team type compensation.
All right? Possibly. Currently, yes. Currently, you're a lottery team, so yes.
So, well, I'm saying like in your hierarchy of your team, like if you gave up a future unprotected first round pick, like that's saying that this is probably going to be at minimum our 3rd or 4th best player.
I agree.
So, ask myself, if Boris Diaw in his prime was your 3rd or 4th best player, I don't think that team is very good. And when I look back and I examine that Spurs roster, I mean, he as and I was a huge Boris Diaw fan.
He was
But
good back in them days with him, the Spurs and the
yeah,
Suns.
but he was like your seventh or eighth best player, right?
Hmm.
And so now, if you're telling me Derek Queen is on a championship team, is going to be your seventh or eighth best player, and you gave up an unprotected pick next year in next year's draft, which is have some phenomenal talent, I I, I didn't like that compensation that was given up for him.
Okay. If you remove the compensation, well, let's not do that. Let's
Hmm.
not do that because you can't remove the
Right.
compensation, right? Based on how he's been playing lately, because he's finally getting a real opportunity to play, kind of have the
Hmm.
ball in his hands. Z's not really there yet.
Hmm.
So we don't know when Zion is back and you actually have the best player and people start slotting more into their roles, what
Hmm.
he'll look like, because this is the idea that Zion, like the way they're playing is Zion not around, right?
Hmm.
How do you think his game is looking right now? In the current playing circumstances that they're in.
I would need Z to come back and fully integrate it into the offense to really get a better picture and understanding of what it'll look like when he has the ball in his hand and Z doesn't. How would they utilize Z and optimize, Derek Queen passing ability to incorporate Zion and Trey? So until I see what that looks like, if Willie can be creative, and
I doubt that.
again,
I know
I
you can't
really
say it,
just
but
need
I
to
said I
see
just doubt that.
what it'll look
Mm,
like when all those pieces are there.
okay. So obviously they just played the Spurs. Derek Queen, but at the end of the day, Derek Queen, the handle is real. He could look. Let me ask you this, because you gave two comps. You gave the Boris Diaw and Alfred Sengun. Could he be more of the Sengun type? Because he has a little bit of. A lot of people use Joker, but I think it's like like
Yeah,
if this
yeah,
is Joker, it's
Galaxy.
a
Yeah,
yeah, like you know
yeah.
what I mean. So I don't really like to use Joker too much, but I
Hmm.
know what they mean, like a big who can handle the ball and pass and stuff like that,
Hmm.
kind of like Joker does. Um, I looked at him as like a mini combination of like a less physical Boogie, right? A less like because Boogie was athletic at the end of the day, but I
Hmm.
mean more like the handle and passing stuff
Hmm.
like that. Like, but Boogie was also athletic, so it's like the handle and passing somewhat of Boogie with the slow movement of Joker. And I'm not saying Alperen Sengun is that, but if he's closer to the Alperen Sengun, is that good enough to be second or third best player on your team, or do you don't think he can reach that ceiling necessarily? And
Yeah,
if not, why?
I don't know if he is as good as Alperen Sengun. Certainly, their rookie stats thus far are pretty comparable.
Mm-hmm.
But Alperen was much younger than Queen
Queen.
in his rookie year. So again, and Houston was, I mean, until they made some, fantastic draft selections. Obviously getting Amen and even like guys like Cam Whitmore, who they was able to trade and get other assets for, and obviously
Mm,
upgrading their team. It wasn't looking the best with Elper and Prince Sangoon because
that's
his
very
his
true.
issue was was he athletic enough? He couldn't really defend at the five. Similar
Yeah,
issues that people say about Derek Queen. So they're real comparable. And until they were able to again, Jabari Smith Jr. They added him 6'10", 4'3", 4
yeah,
type player. They really surrounded Sangoon with more talent and the defensive infrastructure to kind of hide him.
that's
Um,
very true.
I don't see the same situation and scenario for Derek Queen here in New Orleans.
That's a big thing because Sengun, not that he wasn't talented and it didn't show, but like it wasn't really until they put Steven Adams next to him to where you
Yeah.
saw him be able to really pop offensively and like start dominating. Because
Yeah.
similar to what AD was talking about, man, like I'd rather play the four than the five because playing the five is a completely different beast than playing the four. But if you
Yeah.
have Sengun going against most fours, Steven Adams handles the five, you see how he looks, rebounding against those guys. He's just bigger than most of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think Queen has a lot of talent, been flashing that. And they played the Spurs in 2 games against Wemby. I think Queen has looked, you know what I mean, against one of the would honestly probably going to be one of his tougher matchups as the career goes along. Wemby's just,
Sure.
you know what I mean, a beast. He hasn't like looked shook, if that makes sense.
No.
You know what I mean? He hasn't looked shook by the competition. But within that game, obviously, here comes some of the comments. I'm loving on both rookies. Even Tim Duncan was impressed by Queen. You know what I mean? Do you think, and you know what I thought about that when Tim Duncan was impressed by Queen? Tim Duncan would be impressed by a Derek Queen. With that being the case, if I'm Derek Queen, I'm reaching out to Tim Duncan immediately to try and make that connection. And not saying that y'all games are anything similar, but if you can pick up some of the fundamentals and just base and footwork that he already has with, just anything you could get from Tim Duncan would be amazing if you that impressed. So
again,
everybody,
and I can see that because again, I think for me, Derek Queen game is eerily similar to Boris Diaw, and who did Tim Duncan win a championship in 2014 with? Boris Diaw.
Exactly. And Tim's game, if you remember, was just, he wasn't like above the rim player, nothing like that. Just very crafty, very, very basic to a degree. And Derek got a little more stuff with him. But like you said, Tim Duncan with the teammate, I could see Tim Duncan and the ball movement. Tim grew up in the ball movement, good passing kind of offense. So I imagine that that's the style of basketball that he absolutely loves, especially in today's NBA where you don't really see too many players that has the vision and be able to play that way. Here's a question. Do you our rookies, he's like Queen and Fizz, have confidence, that have more confidence than the rest of the Pels combined? How do you think they have, like, do you think that's why Joe said it, like, because everybody hits on the field and stuff, but aside from that, what do you think the confidence comes from with Queen and Fizz and all of that and playing on this level with this team? Because it just seems to be evident with both of those players.
I mean, both of those guys played on real high level basketball programs from early. All right. I mean, Derek Queen played with Cooper Flag at Montverde, and like he was one of the top players, and so he's used to having success. Same with Fears. I mean, those guys, were some of the best prospects coming out. And these guys were routinely at the top of their high school classes, top of their college classes, and when you've had that much success for that long, it's only natural that the confidence, come along with it.
I think part of the confidence is when they're in practice, they look to their left and they look to their right. And like, you know what I mean? You probably had practice like, this dude can't fuck with me, dog.
Yeah.
Like imagine, like, respectfully, but imagine Jose, how Jeremiah Fizz looking at Jose. Like,
give him the blues.
Dog, man, that's my spot. You know what I mean? And same for Derek Queen to a degree. I'm sure Queen looking at, even from a guard's perspective, he probably like, dog, I'm the best passer on this team. I got the most, like, when you see, and I love the moments where you see Derek Queen, I don't like them waving off people in the fourth quarter of the game yesterday. They was waving off Trey, like they had a moment. I think it was who hit the three? Somebody hit the three, and then Fizz, like, they at the end of the game, they're just like, dog, Trey got it going throughout the whole game. And it's just like, nah, so get out. I'm like, no, you can't be waving off Trey Murphy and stuff like that. But like, I guess that's part of the confidence and stuff. But when I'm sure that's developed in the summer of at practice, and they've been knowing each other, like, dog, this is about to be our team. Like, as soon as Zion out of here, it's about to be our team. Here we go. This one, this is another one. Wild take, but I feel like the ceiling for Queen is around prime Boogie or Jokic with a little Hakeem footwork. He feels like a mix of 90s and modern ball. Now, listen, man, before you answer this, and I'm going to let you address this fully, but I am a product of being like falling in love with a player and just thinking he's immediately the best of all time. We can't do that. But what's your thoughts about that comment?
No, he Boogie was bigger, pause, and like
Yeah.
girthier than
Pause.
Queen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
even Jokic, right? Like these guys. I mean, Derek Queen has great size. I think he's like 6'9", 6'10" ish,
He
right?
was
But
6'9" with his shoes off, 6'10" with
yeah,
shoes.
but
Boogie like
like
7'1", wasn't he? Something like that.
tall, right? And Jokic is a
Mm.
footer, right? So
Yeah.
that matters, right? That really matters.
Let me see. Here's another one. I know it's like taboo to compare with Joker, but damn, there are similarities. There are some similarities. There are some similarities. It's just hard to compare players to the greatest player. Like, here's an example. I like to use Giannis sometimes when I use Z, right? Because it's like, could
Mm-hmm.
because Giannis can be the best player on a championship team. We've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it done, but that team was constructed a certain type of way. But even from Giannis to Z, there's a level of, you know what I'm saying? Like Giannis to Z. Like Giannis is, we tell Z we need you to get, like, Z give you 27, right? 27, 9 and whatever. Giannis giving you 35, 14, and 8. Like, just there's levels to that. So I don't know really what, like, my thought is like when we comparing people to like the best players and like their similarities, there's still levels to the similarities.
And believe it or not, I believe offensively, Zion could even be better than Giannis. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I do, but I think the difference in between those two is defensively, and the
Mm,
rebounding, that
mm-hmm.
separates those two and puts one in a higher tier than the other.
Okay, you think it's like the rebounding, being able to like put backs. Giannis gets about 6 to 8 points a game just off of boards at the rim, being able to go back up or being able to take it coast to coast and get fouled.
Yeah.
Just I mean he's taller too. Like at the end of the day, that
Yep.
matters. Giannis
Yep.
is like 4 inches taller
At least, yeah.
than Z. Yeah, this one's for you. Ivory was wrong with Queen, hasn't admitted it yet.
No,
What's that?
no.
Which,
Nah.
what was what was the initial consensus with Queen?
Again, I think on the championship team that he's gonna be your sixth, seventh, eighth best player. And again, if we're asking Derek Queen to be our second or third best player, I that no, that just doesn't bode well for like truly contending.
So here's how I look at it. Let's because a lot of people wanna blow up the roster now, right?
Hmm.
If it were me, my thought is get rid of Willie, even if you promote Borrego. Um,
Hmm.
Even if you're gonna say Borrego is not a better coach than Willie, I think the players are gonna buy into Borrego more than they buy into Willie, and that like addition by subtraction to a degree. If I can get a motivated Zion on board, you're already improved, right? But let's
Hmm.
take the coaching element away from it. I think if you saw the lineup of Queen, Queen Z Trey, right? Queen Z Trey, I play pool in that lineup. I think Queen becomes like he would be like your fourth best player in the lineup like that. Maybe your fifth. I don't know how you would compare like him. I wouldn't start Herb, but like him to Herb, and like I don't know how you compare him to Herb. But let's just say with those three or four on the court, I think you could see Queen look even better because with Trey and the gravity and the shooting, you see how he looks with Trey without Z, and
Hmm.
has been what he's been able to do in his minutes. I think if you add Zion off ball, being able to cut the dribble handoffs, the kind of finishing that Zion has, I
Hmm.
think while Queen would be your third or fourth best player on the court, I think it would look like not championship level because I don't think the rest of the roster is there. But I think you could see Queen look more like what the draft, like what Joe and them think he could look like, as opposed to seventh, eighth, or something like that. What do you think about something like that?
I I understand that thought process, and I agree with it to a large extent. But again, the higher you go up on the totem pole, um, the less defensive infrastructure around you. Now,
Mm,
you don't have any areas to hide when you're the guy.
mm-hmm,
With this unit, all right, and again, I don't. While it may lead to more production, I'm not
mm-hmm.
sure how much that leads to more W's.
See, that's a great point. A lot of people look at production, and you know, you can be a great player on a bad team. And sometimes it takes your numbers taking a hit to a degree. And he's a rookie, so it's not like he got any baseline for numbers yet or anything. It could be
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But what would his production look like with that particular lineup? Do you think they, even if that was the lineup, they should run the? I'm of the mindset they should run the offense through Queen, and then at times you could play through Z, and then at times you got fears you could play through, like that would help out a lot. But if that was the lineup, do you just put it to where you have to run it through Queen to maximize that lineup?
I think so. I think right now you have to try everything, being in the bottom third on offense with points per game. And
Yeah,
Queen has shown the ability to be really good, getting his teammates involved. He Would you say Queen may be the best passer on the team?
absolutely,
So yeah,
absolutely.
he needs more touches, and you know being a facilitator on his team.
You know what I like about the pass, because he is a good passer. Slash, like I think he's borderline a great passer. He's definitely the best passer on his team, and I think
Mm-hmm.
the gift of vision, touch, and all of that
Mm-hmm.
is there. Um, the thing I like is that there's a lot of times where the Pels offense, I think they're too free on offense, right? I think that's one of the biggest hindrances of the Pelicans offense. I think it's too much freedom. Like there are no principles or no rules. Like, okay, if you're here, then you have to cut or you have to screen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing that you've been seeing for Queen is Queen has been orchestrating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for a rookie to already been to already start orchestrating, like, hey, you back cut now, or you like he shouldn't be having to direct traffic. But I think him being able to direct traffic and help put people in better positions, I think with more talent around will help that to a degree, will help maximize the production to where it does lead to wins.
Agreed. Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know if we'll see. I don't know if we'll see. A lot of people are saying they're tired of seeing big. Here's a question. And I got one down here that we gonna put up too. But a lot of people have been comparing Queen to Z, and I want to get your opinion on it. It's like, well, I've seen Derek Queen for 7 games, and he's already doing stuff that they haven't been able to see from Z in over the years. Do you think when you compare, and I hate to ask you this question, but when you're comparing Queen to Zion's game,
Mm-hmm.
what do you like? Where do you fall on that? Like,
I don't think they're remotely the same at all. I think they're two totally different type of fours. Obviously, Queen has the playmaking ability. Zion does too, but
mm-hmm,
Queen can set up his playmaking with his dribble, with his handle. He more of a ISO scorer.
mm-hmm,
He can score on the block a little bit, but I think Zion is best when he's getting downhill, when he's cutting. I think you can play Zion in more of a heliocentric type offense.
mm-hmm.
And I think Zion can play in like a system where it's more egalitarian, where everybody touches the ball. I think I think Queen, you really have to devote getting him the ball on the block and areas where he can facilitate and score. I think you're going to slow down the offense a little bit when Queen gets these ISO touches
Mm-hmm.
so often. But again, he's good enough where you can put him at the top of the key. He can make plays getting downhill. So again, I think it just is up to having a creative coach extracting the best of his abilities and optimizing the offense.
So with that, a lot of one of the things that Queen allows is like since again recently they've been talking about the space, and like the bigs have to play Queen differently because of not necessarily because of the shooting, but because
Mm-hmm.
of the passing.
Yeah.
Why do you think the spacing is different with Queen as opposed to the spacing with Z?
And I think when Z, he just command his grab. He has such gravity, man. In that paint, that you have to send extra bodies, condense
Hmm.
space. I think for now, until Queen shows um, uh, the propensity to really hit the three at a high enough rate to get people to come out and respect the shot, that people will
Hmm.
continue to play off of him a bit. So I just think the difference between those two players is, gravity. I don't think Queen has that gravity getting to the basket like Z does.
Hmm. I think because people have been playing up a little more on Queen because and it's been allowing for like some of the movement behind him and stuff like Trey's been curling and stuff like that. I personally think that because Queen is new, not that you don't respect him as a playmaker or nothing like that, but I think Zion is such a force to where it's kind of like I don't care where Zion is on the court, like all of those players, like you've seen Zion from day one, like demand the ultimate level of
Respect, for
of
sure.
respect. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you play Zion with one man if you want to, and you know what I mean. And it's likely a bucket or
Barbecue chicken.
exactly.
Yeah.
And Zion has shown a high level to be able to create for other players and stuff like that. It may not look as pretty as Derek Queen's offense may look from like the type of passing and stuff like that. But Zion is a pretty quality passer as well. It's just different, and I think the level of bro, people be forgetting that Z really like 20, like 27, 28
Al, let me
a
grab my
night.
charger real quick. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
go
be
ahead,
right
do your
back.
thing, bro. Do your thing. Uh, man, appreciate all y'all tapping in, dog. Staying tuned to the show. We got Ivory in the building, getting into some of the Z Derek Queen questions. A couple of y'all got y'all comments in here, and I'm definitely about to get about to get some of these answered by I see what I got them. Everybody been trying to give Queen a nickname, by the way. I feel like the trade is the ultimate FU nickname. I like that, to be honest, the trade, but but I don't know if the trade don't feel like him. Like I think as he gets more into his career, he gonna probably demand a nickname that's more relative of the size and like the style or whatever. Like he got more of a like respectfully, I think like Derek Queen play like real childish. Like, he'd be smiling out there and wiggling around and whatnot. So I think the nickname gonna come something like that. The three phase, the Blizzard, the Big Easy, and Queen's Gambit. The Big Easy, I like. The Big Easy, I like the Blizzard. Oh, because of the Derek Queen, the Blizzard and Queen's Gambit. I like that one too. Yeah, the Big Easy is fire. The Big Easy is fire. I think that one might stick, to be honest. Somebody need to mention it to him. You kind of got to earn those nicknames. They don't just come to you. Got to do something for that thing to hit pause. Shout out to DJ, man, tapping in. Our rookies clearly have a confidence that we need. Our team as a losing team energy clearly lingering from last year. The new energy is necessary. So like that's a big deal because, and I think that was what Joe Dumars even talked about it in some of his opening interviews. He was saying that when he looked at and was interviewing Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fierce, both of them were like the man on their college team. And I see you could jump in on this too. Was talking about DJ was saying our rookies clearly have the confidence that we need to kind of try to overcome and change that losing like feel and whatnot. Like in order to get rid of losing, you got to bring in winners. Losers are going to continue to lose. Winners are going to win. Eventually, they'll figure out winning. You hate losing so much to it. Like Michael Irvin used to cry when you know what I mean when they was
Yeah.
losing these games, and like you need players like that to where like it matters so much to win. They work harder, they stay longer, they study more. And you see that early from Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen. But I was saying Joe Dumars, when he was talking in the early press conference about them, he was just like, man, they both were at programs, young players, the best players, tournament, you know what I mean, tournament guys, and you saw them be able to, like, Jeremiah Fears was not the best player on that team when the season started, but towards the tournament time, he became the best player on that Oklahoma team. And you saw how he looked when SEC played, you know what I mean, when they got the SEC play in the tournament. And Derek Queen, I thought he was the best player from day one. But you saw what they did, and I think that is a big deal when you draft those two guys in particular. That's also with the talent. That's what you're bringing in. What you think about that?
No, I agree, man. Especially since I've stopped playing myself and been taking this scouting thing a little bit more seriously, man. Like, winners win. Like, if
Mm,
you go back and you look at players who win in the NBA, you go back to even middle school, they were MVP. They won this, they won that. So every level of the organization, not just the players, need to
mm-hmm,
be examined for how they won, and but even like coaches, administrators, people who make these decisions, who have you picked to show that you've been a winner? Like, so I think that has starting to change, but I don't think
mm-hmm.
there's more work that needs to be done in getting some winning mentality and winning people who are accustomed to winning and know winning habits. I think once you do that on every level, I think you see the franchise change.
I absolutely agree. I think that's also part of why you saw the players that were brought in to a degree. Like, I think that's why you saw Jordan Poole brought in, because regardless of what you say, he was a winning player. Like, he played for a winning organization. The same thing with Looney. They played for a winning organization. DeAndre Jordan, you see how he's with Derek Queen. I mean, he was with Denver for the past, like, his most recent experience was with
Mm-hmm.
a winning organization and a winning coach and all of that. I think um a lot of that is the backbone into changing all of this around. You need a coach that has a high has a lot of experience, high character. Just we're going to win. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Give me the Herman Boone. You know what I mean? Give me
Mm-hmm.
Boone. Like, I'm a winner. I'm going, like, winners figure out ways to win. Like, injuries, like, you see some coaches, their rosters get decimated and they still figure out ways to steal a game here or there. Or, you know what I mean? We didn't think this team would look a certain, and they pushing for the playoffs. And then when their team is healthy, they exceed expectations. So, like, I think that's one of the biggest things that you need. You got to get all of the losers out the building. And for me, when I start seeing players, and that's why I kind of was this year was the first year I've been more willing to trade Zion, because recently, that the Memphis game, the second quarter, when they were going on their run in the Memphis game, to me was the first time I saw Z, like, show hints of quitting, or
Mm-hmm.
like overly pouting in the game. Like, normally what you see is just this overall belief he played, like, even if they losing or whatever, but like always playing hard, always just looks and like felt, at least like it's just an intense level of play. Seems like that the if you go back and watch when Memphis was going on that run, like, you don't really see Zeke run away from the ball, or like not make, not even trying to make plays. And you saw Jeremiah Fears like be like, nah, fuck that. Like, I got it. You know, like, because he is that. Like, I don't care if the game rule, like, if I'm struggling or not. Like, and Z had that. That was the first time I've been like, we might need to move him, because I had never. That's loser stuff, in my opinion.
I'm gonna give you three names: Zion Williamson, Aaron Gordon,
Mm-hmm.
Paolo Banchero. All right.
Okay.
To me, again, I look at Aaron Gordon when he was drafted to Orlando, drafted him high, right, and they expected him to be the man. but
Mm-hmm.
he didn't become a championship type player until he got into like a third best player role. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing I'm starting to see with Paolo Banchero. Like I think you need to have two players that are better than him for him to be on the championship roster. Or if he's
Mm-hmm.
your second best, your core your supporting cast has to be A1. All right.
Yeah.
Um, and I really firmly believe that for Zion to be on a championship team, he has to be about your third best player. Or if he's going to be your
I
second best, your supporting core has to be A1.
I agree. I just think his limitations, like with the like he's a dominant force, but like if you imagine if you had Zion, if you had another player as good as Zion, just
Mm-hmm.
one, it
Right.
changes.
Yeah.
Like it just changes what you would be in the West right now. Let's look at it this way: if you had another player at least as good as Zion, you probably be the 3 seed
For sure.
or the 4 seed right
Yeah.
now. Um, so that's that. Let's run through some of these. How much time you got? You got a good little minute? You good? Like what's your
Yeah. I got a couple more minutes.
okay? Let's run through some of these real quick, some of these questions. Appreciate y'all again, man, for tapping in. It's been a amazing show. I think you're doing a phenomenal job. Queen is the second coming to Zach Randolph. I think a lot of people had Zach as the comp because of the athleticism and like the skill set and stuff. What do you think of that one?
I don't see that because Zach Randolph played. He really was a brute under the basket, and Derek
He
Queen
was
definitely
super
can go
physical.
to the box and score, but he uses more finesse moves. He,
Mm.
off the glass, fade away type stuff. Like Zach Randolph was going through you, and again,
Yeah.
I do believe Derek Queen has a higher field than Zach Randolph passing the ball, all right?
Mhm.
But their play styles were totally different.
Let me ask if one of the things that I'm interested to see is when Fears, like we're looking at them right now, Fears and Queen and I am hoping the Pelicans really have a good strength and conditioning, or at least transition to a good strength and conditioning team. And I don't know anything about it necessarily. The reason I say that is because Chaz has been extremely critical that like our players don't gain size, don't get like significantly stronger as they spend more time in the league, as opposed to we look like one of the weaker teams. Like we get pushed around a lot. Like our players look somewhat smaller. So the reason I mention that is because I am hoping that like Queen and Fears in year 3, right? When you start getting more your NBA body and more your man strength or whatever, like the talent on top of that, like the physical is gonna make a difference. What do you think of that?
I don't think it's just a strength and conditioning thing. I think you should target players that are of that physical makeup and have the strength and
Mm,
physicality from onset. I don't think you draft. I don't care how much weights Jordan Hawkins lift. It may actually
mm,
detract from his game. I don't. I think you should target players in a draft that are strong and bigger,
mm-hmm,
instead of just putting it all on a strength and conditioning team because it don't matter. Like no matter how much Jose lifts, like I mean,
mm-hmm. He's still
it don't
small.
matter. Like he's he
Yeah.
has some limitations with his natural biology.
Like Fears is small, but you get Fears is strong for being a smaller guard. At least
Yeah,
I think like he plays more physical than a typical guard of that size. Like he
yeah,
initiates contact and stuff like that. And Queen, for the most part, like he's not overly strong, but he had like he's solid. I think he rebounds well. Like I think as he continues to develop, I don't think he's one of those that you just gonna see easily moved around. Like I don't think that's Queen. Here's another one. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. Here's a question for Ivory. If you were to rank Fears and Queen among the rookies this season, do you rank them higher or lower than their pick number?
Again, man, that's a good question, but I think it's early. I mean, we're not even 10 games in, really.
Mm,
And they I think they're about I had to guess, I would say about 5 or 6. I think there have been about 4 or 5 rookies that have probably been to this point better than them. But again, let's let a whole season play out. And some other guys are going to get some opportunities as team do better or worse. So yeah, I think we need a little bit bigger sample size
Bigger
before
sample
we can get
size.
anything.
Gotcha. Let's see. Shout out to everybody. Say it's good to hear your opinion, man. We got to get you more often, man. It's again, like we said, good to have that knowledge, and opinion just in this format. I know you talk, on some other platforms and stuff, but it's good to get the face with the voice, and you know what I
Yeah,
mean. Like
yeah.
you kind of could get it out there more. This is one also like Alvarado. Talk about Jose has crazy good energy. His competent and TJ McConnell, small guys running their asses off and stepping up in the big shoes when the ass of the team is needed. I think my thoughts about Jose is gonna be Jose, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Jose's got a heart dog. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And there's always gonna be a place in the league for players like Jose. Like Jose is one of those you put him on the floor and he can absolutely change the game. He can win you some games, right? But there's still limitations to what Jose could give you on a nightly basis to where just relying on Jose, like we rely on Jose way too much. Go ahead, what your thought is.
Nah. Again, I think I've never, and I love Jose, but I've never seen Jose do what TJ McConnell did in the finals
No.
against OKC. All right. And again,
TJ was looking dominant out there at times.
yeah, absolutely. And but he was able to max out, playing behind Halliburton, behind Nimhart. He was able to max out the 15 minutes that he got. He could go 1,000%, right?
Mm-hmm.
In an expanded role, like now, like I don't even I haven't watched many Indiana games, but I know they only won one game, and
Yeah.
I know his role is probably expanded with Nimhart and Halliburton
Nice.
being out, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not led to winning basketball. So um, players like that, man, they need to be in roles where they can max out 10, 15 minutes, and help their team as much as they can in that short duration. But expanding their roles, man, asking them to be lead guards, things of that nature, man, I don't think that bodes well for winning basketball.
I didn't even think about that, but that's a great point. That like because TJ in that role looked phenomenal. You know who else I thought was the same in that Ty Jerome last year?
Yeah.
Ty Jerome in that role last year looked. I think did he win six man of the year? Was up there for he was at least up there in the voting or something like that. But I think Ty Jerome falls in the same comparison as to those guys. I mean, Tyus to a degree is similar to that too. Like not 15 minutes because Tyus Jones was a starting guard at one point, like when Ja was out all that time. But I don't think players like that you could play extended minutes. What's your thought? Which you like you had a thought?
No, I think Ty Jerome is different than Jose and TJ because he's more of an offensive player and
Mm-hmm.
he's more of a regular season player. He's more of an 82 game player as opposed to a 16 game player.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, he like has deficiencies when it comes playoff time and when things slow down and it get gritty and physical. Um, but in the regular season, man, he absolutely looked like you know, he he looks the part.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Here's another one. How you guys feel about Poole overall? I love his character and hope he stays in New Orleans next year. He had a slow start to the season though. You want to go first, or you want me to take that one
I,
first?
I I think this roster. I think again, Jordan Poole. When you look at his, you know, when he was the best at his best, he's playing his best ball in Golden State. Obviously, they had a bunch of perimeter gravity.
Mm-hmm.
They had Steph. Obviously, Clay still had a little bit in the tank, right? They had a lot of guys that could really put pressure. And when he came off the bench, with his ability to break people down off of the dribble and score and shoot, like it was just like a knockout punch, right? But when
Yeah.
you asking him to be the guy doing the punching, the heavy lifting early, again, I don't think that's a role that's optimized for him being the best for the team. I think he needs other offensive firepower players that can, especially on the perimeter, that
Mm-hmm.
can alleviate some of that pressure, and then he comes and hit you with some like haymakers. I
Yeah.
think that's his best role.
I think I think we didn't really get an opportunity to see. I agree with you as far as the role. I It's just tough though because I feel like we weren't able to really see Poole utilized properly this season. So, like an example would be in the first two games in the first quarters, right? Poole was dynamic in the first quarters. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the things the Pelicans had issues with was slow starts. Like the first quarter used to be like scoring in the first quarter was a really big problem. But if you looked in game one against Memphis, when he had 10 or
Mm-hmm.
14 in the
Mm-hmm.
10 in the first quarter, both games he started well in the first quarter, but then in the first game you saw the 8-minute break, you know what I mean? Breaks your rhythm. And then in the second half, you don't I think he had 14 in the first half and ended that game with 17, didn't get a shot, maybe one shot in the fourth quarter. Like, and then in the second game, he plays the whole first quarter. And then, you know what I mean, limited again. And then the Clipper game, you saw the offensive explosion and stuff. I think we just haven't had enough. I think they went away too soon to see what the offense could look like, especially when Trey struggled early. Herb was, you know what I mean, was struggling, and then I don't think they gave it enough time to like fully see what Jordan Poole could look like.
I think
When they
he'll
went
get
to
his
Jeremiah
opportunities
Fears.
again. Yeah, I think rookies tend to hit a wall,
Mm.
and maybe they're I don't know, wish it, but there may be a benching where Poole is thrusted back into the starting lineup, or something may happen with Willie where we get a new coach and they change offensive philosophies. But I do think Poole will be inserted in the starting lineup again, and we'll be able to see what that looks like.
That's kind of my hope because I think that'll be the best opportunity for the team to really compete on the next on a contending level. I think he absolutely has to be in the starting lineup. Uh Rookie Central has Queens Comps, Randolph, Joker, Boogie, and Naj Reed. That's a wild range.
Mm-hmm.
A wide range of people. I think Queen is gonna look unique, to be honest. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like how Joker, there's nothing like Joker. And to a degree,
Mm-hmm.
that was nothing like Boogie, to be honest. Like Boogie
Mm-hmm.
was unique. Somebody made the point, I cannot remember who it was. Maybe it was Chaz, uh, or maybe it was you. I can't remember who made this point, but it was saying they gave up a lot. Like if like let's say Derek Queen becomes Boogie. It was Chaz who made this point, but they never won with Boogie, right? Like as good as Boogie was, like where were they in Sacramento? Like
Right.
constantly missing the playoffs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it. So
Right.
even if Derek Queen becomes better than DeMarcus Cousins and looks like that, what does that mean if you're trying to win?
Yeah.
That's a great
Again,
point.
that's a great, and I think that's ultimately w- is going to play out because again, I have a theory about where a certain player should be on the hierarchy of a team on a championship team. Um, and again, Boogie was always the best player on his team in Sacramento. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and he probably needed a guy or two better than him. All right, for them
Mm.
to really be contenders. All right, and again, I think similar fashion with Derek Queen, he's gonna have to be at least your 6 or 7 best player if you're talking about really contending.
So for me, because I want to win now, I personally feel I'm serious, but I personally feel like that's why the trade Z talks are like not great to me because and I understand the thought, but like if you have I know what Z is. Like at the end of the day, you say what you want the talent. I know what Z is. Oh, go ahead. You hear immediately hear pushback.
Yeah, no. I'm with you to an extent.
Hmm.
My biggest fear was Z. All right, he's 25 now, right? 25.
Yeah, yeah.
My fear is that uh, by the time they finally figure it out and optimize this roster around him, he will have likely
the physical
be
gifts
what
of
Joel Embiid is right now. I
mm,
think the 76ers have finally put the right ancillary pieces around Joel Embiid, and yet now I think he's done. Right, and
the
I
knee is
fear the
cooked.
same thing as what happened with Z. Him getting every year he gets older, man. My risk, my you don't heal nearly as fast. You put
Hmm.
on weight faster. Like it's like the risk just goes up exponentially every single year, and I fear that, man.
That's a very good point as well. That's a very good point as well because I think about the talent that Zion is. And some people said they don't think he'll have like a long career. They think the career probably max 10 years or something like that. You already in year
Year about five,
7.
6. Wow. Yep. Oh.
Yeah. So like in you know, what was he look like in 3 seasons? Do you do you try and go get whatever you could get for him now and build it around these pieces? But man, I just as a team that's struggled to find and keep star talent, you know what I mean? I just and you know what it is? If I trusted us to make the right decisions, and I do think we made the right decision so far with Queen and Fizz, but if I trusted the organization to make the right decision, or you don't think we made the right decision?
Nah, man. I think last summer was too pivotal, man. Too pivotal, and we
Too
didn't.
pivotal to give up the pick specifically, or like too pivotal
Yeah.
for those two guys?
Right. I mean, you draft a rookie, a win now rookie, and you know, time will tell. Look, the way we trending now, we are going to be in a top 5. There's Darren Peterson, there's Core Pete, Caleb Wilson, there's Chris Sinak. There are like a couple guys that are coming out in next year's draft, man, who I believe will be absolute franchise changers. And if we just had fears, and we're already losing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would have a high pick, and if we could have added a Darren Peterson to this group, um, I, or Cam Boozer, right? I think the trajectory, the optimism surrounding this team, you can see the vision, you can see where it's going. But now, man, I I, I don't see how you get better without gutting the team.
Okay. My thought was, and I'm a interesting. We won 20 games. I got the 7 pick. Fuck that lottery. I mean, my thought as far as like the lottery goes is that like if we look as bad and I will hold on, wait, let me go because this is the order I see it. I want to see the Pelicans without Willie Green before I see the Pels without Zion. If we don't get to see Zion without Willie, it'll be a sad day. So this is my order of operations or how I would determine the path moving forward. And if you sell and how you salvage this, right? My first move is fire Willie. I think I think we fire Willie because you've seen the ceiling with Willie. They say they're evaluating him and all of that, right? But I asked the question before, like, what are you evaluating? Like,
Mm-hmm.
at this point, is he a championship coach? Right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think the answer to that is right now, no, or at least here, no. I think not saying that he can't get better. You know, a lot of coaches get better on their second term somewhere, their second opportunity. You get a chance to step away from the game and analyze. But
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that Willie Green here, this roster, this situation is good enough, right? So what are you evaluating? So I think you have to remove that. At that point, you can evaluate the roster. Was it Willie Green or is it the players, right? And at that point, you'll know, hey, Zion's not the guy. And I think you can trade Zion to get back into this draft.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can if you're at the point of tearing it down, and I decide to we're leaning into Queen and Fizz. That's why I'm not overly worried about our pick specifically, because if it's to the point where we need a first round pick, right? We're that bad, we need a pick. I'll just move Z. You know, I don't want to move Trey, but I move Z, I move Herb, and I think you could get back into the first round of this draft. Your
I
thoughts
think
on
it's
that?
tricky though, Al, because first of all, you wouldn't be trading likely outside of Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is the only team that I've kind of identified. Or Atlanta may, want to take Zion in return for that pick back or something like that. But there's you would likely be trading Z to a contending team. So that first round
Mhm.
pick will probably be somewhere toward the back. And that's not really going to help you that much. And so unless you can get compensation from one of those teams who are probably going to be picking in the top five, I don't see how trading Z, boosts your outlook.
I think I think my initial thought of how to do it, if I'm blowing it up anyway, a lot of people don't want to lose trade, but if I'm blowing it up, you know, I call Atlanta. Give me my pick back and Zach Ricochet or something like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Give me the pick and something else and some other stuff salary wise and take Trey. If Trey is what we think he is, and I'm resetting anyway, no, you don't want to give Trey up. But Trey ain't gonna want to be here if you about to go through another rebuild anyway. Give me, not saying that he got a choice. I mean, maybe he wants to sit here and try and be the star of the team. Like, like maybe he wants that opportunity. But if I'm sitting there looking at a rebuild, then I offer Trey, and I guarantee you, good teams, bad teams will be willing to make the call for a Trey Murphy. What your thought is?
I can yeah, I can go along with that thought process. That'll be, and then he has a favorable contract as well, where people can absorb that into their books, unlike Z, who has a heftier contract. So I can see
Yeah,
how that could work.
yeah. So I'm again, I wouldn't want to do it, but that's my my thoughts. Let's do one more of these and we'll get you out of here.
Hmm.
Who can you come to the conclusion of the top five? Like who can come to the conclusion of the top five college players after one game? Before you answer that, I think you can. The top five college players are not even based off of college.
Right.
To be honest, like
Yeah.
it's measurables, physicals,
Hmm.
like college. Now, to be honest, these dudes would skip college if if is the rule still in place where you got to do the 1 year. I'm pretty sure it
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah. You have to do 1 year. Yeah.
Yeah, like you got to be at least 19. These dudes, the top prospects that most people know when they come out, like the Boozer brothers, like
Yep.
is Cam that's the good
Cam the
one,
better
right?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, like that dude. People been talking about him as a top pick since
Yeah.
you
Three
know
years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So like when you say how can you come up with like who's the top five guys, is because you already know like Wimby's been known about for
Oh yeah.
like, I mean, I don't know how long, like ever since he started playing basketball, they were like, who's the 7 foot guy shooting the ball? So in my opinion, that's how you come up with the rankings and the listing and stuff like that, is because most of those guys are already known like well ahead of the draft itself.
Yeah.
Um, man, well, I don't know if I answered that. Last thing, and then we'll for sure roll. Um, what is your expectation for the next? They say Z and Poole are out for the next 7 to 10 days, so that's roughly 5 games. How do you think this team is gonna play with Derek Queen like getting more, like see apparently look like he getting or deserve more minutes? How do you think the team is gonna look within these next 7 to 10 days?
Without knowing who they're playing,
I run you.
yeah,
They play Phoenix. They play Phoenix, Portland, Lakers, Golden State in some order. Golden State, Lakers, Golden State, but Phoenix, Portland, and then those two.
I can see higher production, but again, I don't think it would wins or maybe in that four teams you listed, I could see them going 1-3. Oh,
So that's 3-10. At 3-10, at 3-10 is it done? So, man, appreciate you for joining the show, dog. Man, it was absolutely phenomenal to have you.
yeah,
I kept you almost 2 hours, bro. I apologize for taking up most of your
no,
Sunday night.
that's good, man.
Saints got to win today. Shout out to all of those people that are Saints
Yeah,
fans. You know what I mean? A lot of people was excited about Tyler Shuck. So shout out to New Orleans. It seems like there's some optimism. Seems like some of the Saints rookies might have hit. Who knows? We'll see. At 1-7, that's tough to say, but I think they're doing what they need to. A lot of people are excited about the Pels rookies. Appreciate you so much, man, for coming through, blessing the stage. and everything, bro. I absolutely got to have you on again. For I see, hey, man, appreciate everybody that tapped in. Y'all have a good night, man. Enjoy y'all weekend. Y'all stay safe for Monday morning. Y'all stay locked in. Don't get into too much trouble out there. Hey, Davis, Pels in the blender. We out. Peace.